Have you ever worked so hard for success that you came home one day and realized your own child doesn't run to you anymore? You have the career, the money, the American life. But something inside you is quietly dying. If you're tired of chasing and losing what matters, this video is your pause button. I'll tell you my real story, how I almost lost my family, and how slow English listening saved everything. Stay with me. The question that woke me up. Let me paint you a picture. It's 7:42 on a Tuesday morning in a small rented apartment just outside Sacramento. The coffee machine is beeping. The dishwasher is making that weird sound it's been making for 3 months. And my 6-year-old daughter, Mia, half asleep, hair looking like she fought a pillow and lost, tugs on my sleeve. I'm in the middle of responding to an email from my boss. It's 7:42. I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. But my boss is in New York, and New York is already 3 hours ahead, so technically I'm late. Mia tugs again. Mom? Just a second, honey. I type faster. Mom, can I ask you something? Emichim. Then she says it. Quietly. Like she's practiced it 100 times in her head. Do you like your phone more than me? I stop typing. My thumbs freeze midair. The email is half finished with the word regarding and nothing else. And I realize, I don't have an answer. Not a good one. Not a true one. That's the moment this story really begins. Not when I landed in America. Not when I got my first job. Not when I signed the lease on that overpriced one-bedroom near the freeway. It began right there, in a kitchen that smelled like burnt toast and regret, with a 6-year-old asking a question no career coach prepares you for. Now, you might be watching this because you want to improve your English listening. You want to train your ears like a native, move from B1 to C2, master the rhythm and music of American English. And I promise you, this video will do that. But here's the secret no language app will tell you. You cannot truly hear a new language if you have forgotten how to listen to your own life. Let me explain what I mean. I came to America chasing something shiny. Not money exactly, though money was part of it. Not freedom exactly, though freedom sounded nice. I was chasing the feeling of enough. You know that voice inside you that says, once I get that promotion, once I buy that house, once my English is perfect, then I'll be happy? Yeah. That voice lied to me for 10 years. And here's the cruel joke, my English actually got really good. I could negotiate contracts. I could understand sarcasm in a Boston accent. I could order a latte with 3 modifiers and not mess up. But at home, I was speaking a different kind of broken. Not grammar broken. Presence broken. I was there, but I wasn't there. My husband, David, born and raised in Oregon, the kind of guy who says, "Ope," when he bumps into a door, started leaving for work earlier. Not because he had to. Because the silence between us was louder than any argument. We didn't fight. Fighting would have required energy. We just coexisted. Like 2 roommates who share a Netflix password but not a life. And my kids. Mia and her little brother Leo, 4 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs and ketchup, they learned something terrible. They learned that if they wanted my attention, they had to compete with a glowing rectangle. And they were losing. Every single time. So that morning, when Mia asked me if I liked my phone more than her, I didn't cry. I froze. Because freezing is what you do when the truth hits you so hard that your brain needs a moment to reboot. Here's a little neuroscience for you, because I love this stuff, and it will help you understand why slow English listening actually saved me. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system. Fancy name, simple job. It filters out everything your brain decides is unimportant, so you can focus on what matters. The problem? Your brain is lazy. It decides that important means loud, urgent, beeping, buzzing, email notifications. So over time, your brain literally trains itself to ignore quiet things. A child's soft question. The way your partner's breathing changes when they're sad. Your own exhaustion. Because none of those things come with a deadline. And that's what happened to me. I had successfully trained my brain to hear everything except my own life. Mia's question sat in the air for maybe 8 seconds. Then she shrugged and walked away to find her shoes. But those 8 seconds changed everything. Because in those 8 seconds, I realized, I had spent 10 years chasing success in America, and I was losing what mattered. Not dramatically. Not in a car crash or a hospital scene. Just, slowly. Quietly. The way you lose a language you never speak anymore. So here's my first piece of advice, not about grammar, not about vocabulary, but about listening. You cannot hear a new language if you cannot hear the people you love. Slow English listening isn't just about understanding podcasts. It's about retraining your brain to value slowness. To value silence. To value the space between words. Because that space, that's where real communication lives. In the next section, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened when I decided to chase success the American way, and how my own ambition nearly destroyed the only things that actually mattered. But for now, I want you to do something uncomfortable. Pause this video for 5 seconds. Just 5. Put your phone down, face down, not face up where you can still see notifications. And listen to the room you're in. What do you hear? Not the video. The room. If you heard nothing, that's okay. But if you heard something quiet, a fridge humming, a bird outside, your own breath, congratulations. You just took the first step toward listening like a human being again. Now, let's keep going. Because Mia's question was only the beginning. Chasing success, finding emptiness. So there I was. 7:42 on a Tuesday. Mia's question still echoing in my skull like a song you can't unhear. And what did I do? I finished the email. Of course I did. Because that's what successful people do, right? They push through. They don't let emotions derail productivity. They compartmentalize. They hustle. I sent the email. I made breakfast. I packed lunches. I dropped the kids at daycare. I drove to work. And by 9 a.m., I had already forgotten Mia's question entirely. Not because I'm a monster. Because my brain had been trained, beautifully, efficiently, tragically trained, to prioritize the loud over the quiet. Let me tell you about my job. I was a project manager at a mid-sized logistics company near the airport. Glamorous? No. Stable? Yes. The kind of job that pays the bills, offers health insurance, and slowly steals your soul one spreadsheet at a time. I was good at it. Really good. My boss called me reliable. My coworkers called me the one who always responds at 11 p.m. I wore that like a medal. But here's what no one tells you about chasing success in America: the finish line moves. Every single time you get close, someone pushes it further away. Got a promotion? Great, now aim for the next one. Bought a used Honda? Nice, but your neighbor just got a Tesla. Learn to understand a fast-talking New Yorker? Cool, now try a mumbling teenager from the Midwest. There is no arrival. There is only more. And America, beautiful, exhausting, opportunity-soaked America, is designed to make you feel like you're never enough. The billboards, the Instagram ads, the LinkedIn humble brags about 4 a.m. wake-up calls. They all whisper the same thing: you could be doing more. You should be doing more. Why aren't you doing more? So I did more. I said yes to every overtime request. I answered emails during bath time. I took calls in the car while my kids sang the Frozen soundtrack in the back seat, or maybe they weren't singing. I don't actually know. I wasn't listening. I was closing deals. David, my husband, tried to talk to me about it. He'd say things like, "Hey, you seem tired," or "Leo asked why you never eat dinner with us." And I'd give him the answer I'd perfected over 5 years of marriage: I'm doing this for us. For the family. That answer is a lie. I know that now. But at the time, I believed it. Because that's the beautiful trap of the American dream. It convinces you that sacrificing your present is noble if it buys a better future. So you sacrifice. And sacrifice. And sacrifice. Until one day you look up and realize you've sacrificed the only future that ever mattered, the one where your children remember your face. Here's a little psychology for you, because I wish someone had told me this years ago. Psychologists call it the arrival fallacy. It's this weird quirk of the human brain where we believe that reaching a specific goal will make us permanently happy. Once I make 6 figures, I'll be content. Once I buy a house, I'll feel secure. Once my English is fluent, I'll finally belong. But here's the kicker: when you actually arrive, the happiness lasts about 2 weeks. Then your brain resets, finds a new lack, and starts chasing again. It's like a hamster wheel made of gold. Pretty to look at. Exhausting to run on. I was on that wheel for 10 years. 10 years of almost there. 10 years of just a little more. And the cruelest part? My English got fantastic. I mean, really good. I could debate contract terms. I could understand sarcasm in 3 different regional accents. I once successfully argued with a Verizon customer service representative and won. That's basically the citizenship test right there. But my family? They got my leftovers. My tired, drained, don't touch me I just need 10 minutes leftovers. David stopped asking about my day. Not because he didn't care. Because every time he asked, I'd give him a 3-word answer while staring at my phone. Fine. Busy. Tired. Those became my personality. And the kids? Oh, they adapted. Kids are amazing at adapting. They learned not to interrupt mom when she's working. They learned to show their drawings to dad instead. They learned that mom's face lights up for email notifications, not for them. I didn't notice any of this, of course. I was too busy being successful. But here's the thing about emptiness: it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door with a marching band and a sign that says, "Hey, you're hollow inside." It creeps in slowly. Like cold. You don't realize you're freezing until your fingers turn blue. One evening, I came home after a 12-hour day. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I found David asleep on the couch with Leo on his chest. Mia was in her room, reading by herself. And I stood in the hallway, keys still in my hand, and felt nothing. Not sadness. Not relief. Just nothing. A perfectly clean, perfectly efficient, perfectly terrifying nothing. That was emptiness. And I had earned every bit of it. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with learning English? Everything. Because here's the truth I discovered the hard way. You cannot learn to truly hear a language if you have forgotten how to hear yourself. Slow English listening isn't just about pronunciation and intonation. It's about creating space in your brain. Space to notice things. Space to feel things. Space to hear the small voice, in English or any language, that says, something is wrong. Something is missing. Come home. I didn't know that yet. Not in section 2 of my story. At this point, I was still running. Still chasing. Still telling myself that the emptiness was temporary, that the next promotion would fix it, that the next house would fill the hole. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Nothing external ever fills an internal hole. That's not a motivational quote. That's neurology. Your brain's dopamine system is designed to anticipate rewards, not to enjoy them. The chase feels better than the catch. Always. So if you're watching this and you feel that emptiness too, that quiet exhaustion behind your, I'm fine, I need you to know something. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not failing. You're just running on a wheel that was never designed to stop. And the only way off is to stop running. Slowly. Gently. One tiny pause at a time. In the next section, I'll tell you about the cultural whispers I ignored, the American way of saying, how are you, without actually caring. And how that almost destroyed my marriage before I even noticed the cracks. But for now, try this, take one breath. Just one. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. And ask yourself, not your boss, not your family, not your phone, you, what am I actually chasing? If the answer scares you, good. That means you're finally listening. The cultural whispers you ignore. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time someone in America asked you, how are you? And you told them the truth? Not, I'm good, or, I'm fine, or, living the dream, the automatic lie we all say because the truth would take more than 3 seconds. When was the last time you said, actually, I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in weeks. And I think my marriage is falling apart? Yeah. That's what I thought. Because here's the thing about American culture, and I say this with love, because I chose to live here. And I genuinely adore so much of it. Americans ask, how are you? The way they ask, what's the weather like? It's a greeting ritual, not a genuine inquiry. The expected answer is a smile and a, good, you? Anything longer than that makes people uncomfortable. They shift their weight. They glance at their phone. They suddenly remember they left something in the car. I learned this the hard way. When I first started working in that logistics company, a coworker named Karen, and yes, her name was actually Karen. I cannot make this up, would stop by my desk every morning and say, hey. How are you? And the first few times, I tried to answer honestly. Well, my back hurts from sleeping on that terrible mattress, and I'm worried about my mom back home. And I didn't understand half of what the manager said in yesterday's meeting because he talked so fast, but I never got past, back hurts, before. Karen's eyes glazed over. She'd nod, say, that's nice, and walk away. She didn't want an answer. She wanted a transaction. A verbal handshake that said, we are friendly colleagues, now let's never discuss emotions again. And you know what I did? I adapted. I learned the script. How are you? Good, you? Good. Done. 3 seconds. Smile included. I got so good at this script that I started using it at home. David would ask, "How was your day?" And I'd say, "Good, you?" Like my husband was a coworker I barely knew. Like my life was a greeting card with no space for real words. That's what I mean by cultural whispers you ignore. Nobody tells you this when you're learning English. The textbooks teach you, "How are you?" "I am fine, thank you." And you? They don't teach you that, "I am fine," is a lie 80% of the time. They don't teach you that saying, "I'm not fine," makes you seem weird, or broken, or too much. So you learn to hide. You learn to smile when you want to cry. You learn to say, "I'm just tired," when you're actually drowning. And slowly, quietly, you forget how to breathe honestly. You forget that your own feelings deserve to be spoken out loud. Not in a dramatic, weepy way. Just, honestly. Here's the neuroscience behind this, because I find it fascinating and also infuriating. Your brain has something called emotional suppression. When you constantly hide your true feelings, your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes emotions, stays in a low-grade alarm state. Not full panic. Just buzzing. Always buzzing. Like a refrigerator that never shuts off. And here's the cruel part, emotional suppression doesn't make the feelings go away. It just moves them from your conscious mind to your body. So instead of feeling sad, you get a headache. Instead of feeling lonely, your shoulders tighten. Instead of feeling exhausted, you crave sugar at 3 p.m. Your body becomes a storage unit for all the feelings you refuse to say out loud. That was me. For years. I had mastered the American "I'm fine." I could say it in 3 different accents. I could say it while crying internally. I could say it so convincingly that even I believed it. But my body knew. My back hurt constantly. I had insomnia. I would snap at David over stupid things, leaving the milk out. Forgetting to buy toilet paper, because those small angers were the only feelings I allowed myself to express. And the kids? Oh, they noticed. Children are emotional geniuses. They can't read spreadsheets, but they can read your soul. Mia started asking me, "Are you okay?" With this worried little face. And I'd say, "I'm fine, honey," the exact same script I used with Karen. My 6-year-old daughter was getting the same emotional honesty as a coworker I didn't even like. That's when I realized something terrible. I hadn't just lost the ability to speak English naturally. I had lost the ability to speak honestly. In any language. Because honesty requires safety. It requires believing that the person listening won't run away, won't judge you, won't give you that uncomfortable, "I don't know what to say" face. And American culture, fast, efficient, optimistic to a fault, is not always safe for honest answers. We celebrate positivity. We worship the grind. We post inspirational quotes about good vibes only. And in doing so, we accidentally tell each other, "Your pain is not welcome here. Leave it at the door." So I left it at the door. Every single day. And every single day, the pile of unspoken feelings grew bigger. Until one evening, David asked me a simple question, "Do you still want to be married to me?" And I realized I didn't even know how to answer. Not because I didn't love him. But because I had forgotten how to access my own truth. It was buried under 10 years of "I'm fine." This is where slow English listening enters the story, not as a language lesson, but as a rescue mission. You see, when I started practicing slow English listening, really slow, like a child learning their first words, something unexpected happened. The slowness forced me to pause. To actually sit with a sentence instead of rushing past it. To notice the spaces between words, the tiny shifts in tone, the breath before an answer. And that skill, the skill of slowness, leaked out of my English practice and into my real life. I started pausing before answering, "How are you?" Just for 1 second. Just long enough to check in with myself. And sometimes, the answer wasn't fine. Sometimes it was tired. Or lonely. Or actually, I had a terrible day. The first time I said, "I'm not okay," to David, he froze. Not because he didn't care. Because he had never heard me say it before. And then he did something beautiful. He put down his phone. He looked at me. And he said, "Tell me." No fixing. No advice. No, "It'll get better." Just presence. Just listening. And that, my friend, is what slow English listening is really about. Not perfect grammar. Not a native accent. But the ability to hear and be heard, slowly, honestly, without rushing to the next notification. In the next section, I'll tell you about the moment my marriage almost ended, not with a fight, but with a whisper. And how learning to speak slowly saved us both. But for now, I want you to try something scary. The next time someone asks you, "How are you?" Even a stranger, even a cashier, pause for 1 second. Just one. And if you're not fine, try saying, "I'm not great today." See what happens. Most people won't run away. Some might even surprise you. And if they do run away? Good. You just learned something about them. The silence that screams. Picture this. It's 7:15 p.m. on a Thursday. The parking lot of a strip mall in suburban California. I'm sitting in my car, a 2016 Honda CR-V with a cracked dashboard and a faint smell of old French fries. The engine is off. The lights are off. The only sound is the distant hum of the freeway and my own breathing. I've been sitting here for 47 minutes. Why? Because I don't want to go home. Not because home is dangerous. Not because anyone is waiting to hurt me. Because home is quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The heavy kind. The kind that sits on your chest like a bag of wet sand. The kind that makes you feel like you're failing even when you're doing everything right. I had just finished another 12-hour day. I had successfully managed 3 crisis calls, 1 angry client, and a spreadsheet that refused to add correctly. I had been praised by my boss. I had been professional and capable and fine. And now I was sitting in a dark car, staring at a taqueria sign that flickered on and off. Because the thought of walking through my front door felt unbearable. Let me be specific about what I was avoiding. Not abuse. Not fighting. Just the silence. David wouldn't yell at me. He'd just look up from the couch, say, "Hey," and go back to whatever he was watching. The kids would be in their pajamas, already half asleep, not expecting anything from me because they had learned not to expect anything. Dinner would be cold leftovers on the counter. And I would eat standing up, scrolling through emails, because sitting down felt too much like surrender. That silence was louder than any argument. Arguments at least mean you still care enough to fight. Silence means you've given up. You've accepted that this is just how life is now. 2 people living in the same house, sharing chores and children, but not sharing a heart. I want to tell you exactly what I was thinking in that car. Not the polished version. The raw, ugly, honest version. I don't even know why I'm tired anymore. I chose this life. I wanted the career. I wanted the American paycheck. I wanted to prove that someone like me, immigrant, non-native English speaker, different, could make it. And I did make it. So why do I feel like I'm drowning? Why does making it feel exactly like losing? What have I been chasing for 10 years? That question hit me like a truck. Because I didn't have an answer. Not a real one. I had been running so fast for so long that I had forgotten why I started running in the first place. The goal had become the running itself. The exhaustion had become my identity. I was the hard worker. I was the reliable one. I was the immigrant who made it. But underneath all those labels, there was just nothing. A hollow space where a person used to be. Here's some psychology that explains exactly what was happening to me. Psychologists call it identity foreclosure. It's when you commit to an identity, successful professional, good provider, strong immigrant, without ever exploring whether that identity actually fits you. You just put it on like a costume and wear it until you forget you're wearing anything at all. I had foreclosed on myself. I had become the story I told other people. And the real me, the one who used to laugh at stupid jokes, who loved dancing in the kitchen, who cried at sad movies and wasn't ashamed of it, that person had been evicted somewhere around year 3 of the hustle. I didn't even notice her leaving. So there I Saturday 7:47 p.m. now. A man walked out of the taqueria with a burrito the size of his forearm. A woman jogged past in neon leggings. The world kept spinning, completely unaware that I was having a quiet breakdown in a Honda CR-V. And then my phone buzzed. A text from David. You okay? Kids want to know if you'll read tonight. That's when I started crying. Not the pretty movie kind of crying. The ugly kind, nose running, shoulders shaking, gasping for air kind. Because I realized, my kids still wanted me. After all my absences, all my distracted ahas, all the times I chose my phone over their drawings, they still wanted me to read to them. I didn't deserve that. But they were offering it anyway. That text was a lifeline. And I almost ignored it. I almost typed back, busy, be home soon, the same lie I always told. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the 47 minutes of sitting in the dark. Maybe it was the burrito guy walking by with no idea that he was witnessing a turning point. I didn't text back. I started the car. I drove home. When I walked through the door, Mia was sitting on the stairs in her unicorn pajamas. Leo was already asleep on David's shoulder. And Mia looked at me, really looked at me, and said, Mom, your eyes are red. Were you crying? I could have lied. I could have said allergies, or I'm fine, or any of the other scripts I had memorized. But I didn't. I sat down on the step next to her, put my arm around her tiny shoulders, and said, Yeah, honey. Mommy was sad. She nodded like she understood. Then she said, Sometimes I'm sad too. But then I hug my stuffed bunny and it helps. That was the most honest conversation I had had in years. And it happened with a 6-year-old. In a stairwell. At 8:15 p.m. on a Thursday. Here's what I learned that night, sitting on those carpeted stairs. Silence isn't the absence of sound. Silence is the absence of honesty. My house wasn't quiet because we had nothing to say. It was quiet because we had stopped saying anything true. And that's the real reason I didn't want to go home. Not because home was bad, but because home was a mirror. And I didn't want to see my own reflection. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with learning English? Everything. Because here's the truth I discovered in that stairwell. You cannot learn to speak a new language fluently if you are afraid of speaking honestly. Fluency isn't about vocabulary. It's about courage. The courage to say, I'm sad, when everyone expects I'm fine. The courage to say, I don't know, when your pride wants to fake an answer. The courage to sit in silence with someone and just be. Slow English listening taught me that. Not because the podcasts were magical, but because slowing down forced me to stop performing. To stop pretending. To stop rushing past the hard words and the hard feelings. In the next section, I'll tell you how I almost signed divorce papers, and how a single sentence from my daughter changed everything. But first, I want you to do something uncomfortable. Tonight, when you go home, or when you're alone, wherever you are, sit in silence for 5 minutes. No phone. No TV. No podcast. Just you and the quiet. And ask yourself, what am I avoiding? Whatever comes up. Don't run from it. Just notice it. That's the first step toward hearing yourself again. A slow English, a fast awakening. So I sat on those stairs with Mia's tiny hand in mine, and something cracked open inside me. Not dramatically. Not like a dam breaking. More like a small, frozen river starting to melt, one drop at a time. I had spent 10 years running, and in that single honest moment with my 6-year-old, I finally stopped. But stopping is terrifying. Because when you stop running, you have to look at where you are. And where I was a mess. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called in sick. Not because my body was sick, though it probably was, in that low-grade, exhausted, adrenal fatigue kind of way. I called in sick because I needed one day. Just one. To sit with the wreckage. David looked confused when I told him I wasn't going to work. He stood in the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, wearing that same confused expression he'd worn for years, the one that said, "Who are you and what have you done with my wife?" I didn't explain. I just said, I need a day. And he nodded, kissed the top of my head, a gesture so familiar and so distant at the same time, and took the kids to school. And then I was alone. In a quiet house. With nothing but my thoughts and a dishwasher that still made that weird sound. I didn't know what to do with myself. My whole identity was built on doing. Checking boxes. Answering emails. Being productive. Without those things, I felt naked. Untethered. Like a balloon that had been cut loose from its string. So I did the only thing that came to mind. I opened YouTube. Not for work. Not for research. For me. And I typed something I had never typed before, slow English listening practice. Now, you have to understand. I had tried to learn English the right way for years. Grammar books. Flashcards. Apps that punished you with red X's. Tutors who charged $80 an hour. I had done it all. And my English was good, technically. I could pass tests. I could write emails. But my English never felt mine. It always felt like a costume I put on when I walked into the office and took off when I came home. But slow English listening? That was different. The first video I clicked on was a woman with a gentle voice, speaking about her morning routine. She spoke so slowly. Painfully slowly at first. I wake up at 6:30. I almost clicked away. This was too slow. Too simple. I wasn't a beginner. I was a project manager. I negotiated contracts. But something kept me there. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the 47 minutes in the car. Maybe it was Mia's question. I stayed. And then something strange happened. As I listened, really listened, not trying to translate, not trying to memorize, my shoulders started to drop. You know that tension you carry in your upper back? The one you don't even notice until someone points it out? It started to loosen. My breathing slowed. My heart rate, which had been running a marathon for 10 years, finally took a rest. Because here's the secret about slow English listening that no language app will tell you. It's not about English. It's about your nervous system. Let me explain the science. Your brain has two main modes. There's the sympathetic nervous system, that's your fight or flight mode. It's activated by stress, urgency, deadlines, notifications, and fast, demanding input. When you're in this mode, your cortisol spikes, your jaw clenches, and your ability to learn new things actually decreases. You're not learning. You're surviving. Then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. This is where real learning happens. Where memories consolidate. Where language sticks. And this mode is activated by one thing, slowness. Low pressure. No urgency. Gentle, repeated exposure without judgment. Most English learners, especially immigrants trying to survive in America, are stuck in fight or flight mode. They're terrified of making mistakes. They're embarrassed by their accent. They're rushing to be fluent, because fluency equals safety, equals belonging, equals enough. But the irony is that rushing makes fluency impossible. You cannot force your brain into learning. You have to invite it. That morning, sitting on my couch in my pajamas, drinking cold coffee, I accidentally invited my brain into rest mode. Not because the video was magical, but because the slowness gave my brain permission to stop performing. To stop proving. To just listen. I listened to that woman talk about her morning routine for 45 minutes. She said, I brush my teeth about 12 times. And instead of getting bored, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. When David came home that evening, he found me still on the couch. The TV wasn't on. The dishes weren't done. I had done nothing productive all day. And for the first time, I didn't apologize for it. You okay? He asked. No, I said. But I'm not running anymore. He sat down next to me. Not close. But closer than he had in months. And we just sat there. In the silence. But this time, the silence wasn't screaming. It was breathing. That was the beginning of my slow awakening. Not a dramatic transformation. Not a montage where I suddenly became a perfect wife, mother, and English speaker. Just a pause. A permission slip to be imperfect. To be slow. To be enough without earning it. Over the next few weeks, I started a new ritual. Every morning, before checking my email, I would listen to 10 minutes of slow English. Not to study. Not to improve. Just to be. I would close my eyes, put my headphones on, and let the words wash over me like rain. Sometimes I understood everything. Sometimes I drifted off. It didn't matter. The point wasn't comprehension. The point was presence. And slowly, I mean really slowly, something shifted. The patience I practiced during those 10 minutes started leaking into the rest of my life. I started pausing before answering David. I started looking at my kids when they talked to me. I started saying, I don't know, instead of pretending to have all the answers. My English didn't change dramatically. But my listening did. And that made all the difference. In the next section, I'll tell you the one sentence that saved my marriage, not a dramatic speech, not a grand apology. But 5 simple words I learned from a slow English story. And how that sentence brought us back from the edge of divorce. But for now, I want you to try something. Find a slow English video, any video, and listen to just 5 minutes. Not to learn. Not to take notes. Just to be. Let the slowness wash over you. And notice what happens to your shoulders. To your breathing. To that tightness in your chest that you forgot was there. You might be surprised what you hear. Not in English. In yourself. One sentence that saved my marriage. Let me tell you about the night I almost signed divorce papers. But first, let me tell you why we got there, because it wasn't what you think. No cheating. No screaming matches. No throwing dishes at the wall. We got there because of something much more ordinary, and much more dangerous, slow erosion. By the time I started my slow English listening ritual, David and I had been living like polite strangers for about 2 years. We coordinated schedules. We split bills. We attended parent-teacher conferences together. But we hadn't had a real conversation, the kind where you say something true and the other person actually hears it, in longer than I could. Remember. The worst part? Neither of us was angry. Anger would have been fuel. Anger would have meant there was still something worth fighting for. We weren't angry. We were just tired. Tired of trying. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of saying the same things and getting the same silences in return. One evening, after the kids were asleep, David sat down across from me at the kitchen table. He had that look, the one people get when they've been rehearsing a speech for days. My stomach dropped. I've been thinking, he said. Those 3 words. The most dangerous words in any marriage. I think maybe we should. He paused. Ran his hand through his hair. I don't know if this is working anymore. And there it was. The sentence I had been both dreading and expecting for years. He didn't say, divorce. He didn't have to. The word hung in the air between us like smoke. I should have fought. I should have cried. I should have said something real. But my old script kicked in, the one I had perfected in offices and parking lots and dinner tables. Okay, I said. Quietly. Whatever you think is best. David blinked. He looked almost disappointed. Like he had been hoping I would prove him wrong. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, offering him nothing. He stood up. Walked to the bedroom. Closed the door. And I sat alone at the kitchen table, listening to the refrigerator hum, thinking, this is what you worked so hard for. This is what you sacrificed for. A silent kitchen and a closed door. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, running through the greatest hits of our marriage. The early days, when we couldn't keep our hands off each other. The way he used to make me laugh so hard I snorted. The first time he held Mia, crying tears I had never seen a man cry before. Where did that couple go? When did they become us? The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I didn't go to work. I didn't call in sick with a lie. I just didn't go. I sat on the back porch with cold coffee, and I listened. Not to a podcast. Not to slow English. To the birds. To the wind. To my own heartbeat. And then I remembered something from one of those slow English stories I had been listening to. It was a simple story about a woman who had lost her voice, not physically, but emotionally. She had stopped saying what she meant. And the sentence that saved her? It wasn't poetic. It wasn't profound. It was just 5 words. I need to tell you something. That's it. No drama. No guarantees. Just an invitation. A tiny door cracked open. That afternoon, when David came home from work, earlier than usual, looking as exhausted as I felt, I was sitting on the couch. Not scrolling. Not pretending to be busy. Just sitting. He walked past me toward the bedroom. "David," I said. He stopped. Didn't turn around. "I need to tell you something." Slowly, he turned. His face was guarded. The face of a man who had been hurt too many times to hope. I didn't have a speech prepared. I didn't have clever words. I just opened my mouth and let the truth fall out, messy, unpolished, terrifying. "I've been lying to you for 10 years, I said. Not about big things. About small things. I told you I was fine when I wasn't. I told you I was tired when I was actually sad. I told you I was busy when I was actually scared. Scared that if I stopped running, you wouldn't like what you saw. Scared that if I told you the truth, you'd leave." His face didn't change. But he didn't walk away either. "I'm not fine," I continued. "I haven't been fine for a long time. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you live with a stranger. I'm sorry I chose my phone over your face. I'm sorry I forgot how to laugh with you." Then I said the hardest sentence of all. The one I had been avoiding for years. "I don't know how to fix this. But I want to try. If you still want to try." David stood there for what felt like forever. The clock on the wall ticked. The neighbor's dog barked. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Then he walked over. Sat down next to me. Not close. But closer than he had in months. "I don't know either," he said quietly. "But I miss you. I miss who you were. And I think she might still be in there somewhere." That was the moment. Not a magical fix. Not a Hollywood reconciliation. Just 2 exhausted people, sitting on a couch, admitting they didn't have the answers. And somehow, that admission was more intimate than any perfect solution. Here's what I learned that day, and what slow English listening taught me. The most important sentence in any language is not, "I love you." It's, "I need to tell you something." Because love without honesty is just performance. And you cannot perform your way through a marriage. The science backs this up. Psychologists call it emotional vulnerability, the willingness to share your true feelings without knowing how the other person will respond. And here's the wild part. Vulnerability literally rewires your brain. When you share a true feeling and the other person responds with acceptance, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. That's the chemical opposite of cortisol, the stress hormone. Vulnerability doesn't weaken you. It heals you. But vulnerability requires safety. And safety requires slowness. You cannot be vulnerable in a rush. You cannot confess your fears between email notifications. You have to pause. You have to breathe. You have to say, I need to tell you something, and then wait. That's what slow English listening gave me. Not vocabulary. Not grammar. Permission to pause. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to say, I don't know, without feeling like a failure. David and I didn't fix everything that night. We're still fixing it. Some days are hard. Some days we forget and fall back into old patterns. But now we have a new ritual. Every evening, after the kids are asleep, we sit together for 10 minutes, no phones, no TV, and we ask each other one question. What's one true thing about your day? Sometimes the answer is small. I felt proud of Mia. Sometimes it's hard. I felt lonely at lunch. But it's always true. And that truth, shared slowly, without rushing, has become the foundation of a marriage I thought we had lost forever. In the next section, I'll tell you the science behind slowing down, why your brain actually learns better when you stop trying so hard. And how that science saved not just my marriage, but my relationship with my children. But for now, I want you to try something. Think of one person in your life, a partner, a friend, a parent, someone you've been performing for. And the next time you see them, say these 5 words, I need to tell you something. Then tell them one true thing. Just one. See what happens. You might be surprised how heavy the truth is, and how light it feels once you set it down. The science of slowing down. Let me ask you a weird question. Have you ever tried to fall asleep by yelling at yourself, go to sleep? Why aren't you sleeping yet? Sleep, damn it. Of course not. Because everyone knows that sleep doesn't respond to force. The more you demand it, the more it runs away. Sleep is shy. Sleep needs safety. Sleep needs darkness and quiet and a brain that has stopped trying so hard. Learning a language, especially listening to English, is exactly like sleep. The more you chase it, the more it hides. The more you stress about understanding every single word, the less your brain actually processes. You are literally pushing fluency away by trying to grab it. I learned this the hard way. But once I understood the science, everything changed. Not just my English. My entire life. Here's what I wish someone had told me 10 years ago. Your brain has a bottleneck. A narrow, easily clogged bottleneck. And when you try to force too much through it at once, fast speech, unfamiliar vocabulary, anxiety about making mistakes, worry about what the other person thinks, the bottleneck jams. Nothing gets through. You hear sounds, but you don't comprehend meaning. You freeze. You smile. You nod. And inside, you're screaming, I have no idea what you just said. That bottleneck is your working memory. Think of it as a tiny desk in your brain. On that desk, you can hold only a few pieces of information at a time, maybe 4 or 5. When you're listening to English at normal speed, the words come flying at you like paper airplanes. Your working memory desk gets buried. You can't organize the words. You can't find the verb. You're just buried. But when you slow down the input, really slow it down, something magical happens. The words arrive one at a time, gently, like guests at a quiet dinner party. Your working memory desk stays clean. You have time to process each word, attach meaning to it, and place it in context. And slowly, without effort, the language starts to feel yours. This isn't a metaphor. This is neuroscience. Researchers have known for decades that processing speed is the hidden bottleneck in second language listening. Your ears might be fast, but your brain's ability to parse sounds into meaning is slower, especially when you're tired, stressed, or anxious. And guess what? Immigrants in America are almost always tired, stressed, and anxious. It's not a personal failing. It's a survival response. Let me give you a specific example. Before I discovered slow listening, would watch American TV shows at normal speed, telling myself, just push through. You'll get it eventually. I didn't get it. I got headaches. I got frustrated. I got that familiar feeling of not enough. And then I would quit for weeks, ashamed of my own brain. But when I switched to slow English, the kind where the speaker pauses between sentences, repeats key phrases, and speaks at 75% of normal speed, my brain finally had room to breathe. After just 2 weeks of 15 minutes a day, I noticed something shocking. I started understanding fast speech without slowing it down. Because my brain had internalized the patterns, the rhythm, the common phrases. Not through force. Through repetition in safety. Here's another piece of science that blew my mind. Your brain has something called mirror neurons. These are tiny little brain cells that fire not only when you perform an action, but when you observe someone else performing that action. When you watch a slow English speaker's mouth movements, your mirror neurons are quietly rehearsing those movements in your own brain. You are learning to speak without opening your mouth. That's not magic. That's biology. But mirror neurons only work when you're relaxed. When you're in fight or flight mode, stressed, judgmental, self-critical, your mirror neurons shut down. You're not learning. You're just surviving. This explains why so many immigrants live in America for decades and still struggle with listening comprehension. It's not because they're lazy or untalented. It's because their nervous system has been stuck in survival mode since the day they arrived. Every conversation feels like a test. Every mistake feels like evidence of failure. And that chronic low-grade stress literally blocks the neural pathways needed for language acquisition. The solution? Slowness. Deliberate, intentional, almost painfully slow exposure to the language, without judgment, without tests, without the pressure to perform. Just listening. Just breathing. Just letting your brain do what it evolved to do, absorb patterns through repeated, safe exposure. This is exactly what I started doing. Every morning, would listen to a slow English story, usually about everyday life, about feelings, about marriage and kids. Nothing technical. Nothing urgent. Just a gentle voice telling a gentle story. I didn't take notes. I didn't rewind to catch every word. I just listened. Like a child listening to a bedtime story. No pressure. No performance. And slowly, I mean really slowly, my brain started to change. I stopped translating in my head. I started feeling the language instead of decoding it. I would hear a phrase like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and instead of translating it to my native language, I would just feel overwhelmed. The word became the feeling. That's fluency. Not knowing every word, but having the word connect directly to the emotion. One morning, about 3 weeks into this practice, David said something to me, normal speed, normal conversation, and I understood him. Not just the words. The feeling behind the words. He said, I had a rough day. And I didn't need to ask for clarification. I just heard it. And I said, tell me about it. And he did. That had never happened before. I had always been one step behind, translating, catching up. But that morning, I was present. And presence is the real goal of language learning. Not perfection. Not an accent. Not a certificate. Just the ability to be with someone in their language. Here's my challenge to you today. Stop trying to learn English fast. Fast is a lie. Fast is for selling apps and courses. Real learning is slow. Real learning is boring. Real learning is listening to the same simple sentence 10 times until it stops being foreign and starts being familiar. Try this. Find a slow English video or podcast, one where the speaker pauses between sentences. Listen to the same 5 minutes every day for a week. Don't try to memorize. Just listen. By day 5, something will shift. The sounds will stop feeling like noise and start feeling like music. And your brain, that beautiful, pattern-hungry organ, will finally relax into the rhythm. In the next section, I'll tell you how I relearned my children's names, not literally, but emotionally, and how slow listening helped me hear them for the first time in years. But for now, close your eyes. Take 3 slow breaths. And tell yourself, I don't have to be fast. I just have to be present. That's not just good advice for English. That's good advice for being human. Relearning my children's names. This is going to sound strange. Maybe even a little embarrassing. But here's the truth. About 6 months into my slow English journey, I realized I had forgotten the sound of my own children's laughter. Not the fact that they laughed. I knew they laughed. But the specific music of it, the way Mia's laugh started as a giggle and exploded into a snort. The way Leo's laugh was more of a delighted screech, I had lost it. Buried somewhere under spreadsheets and emails and the constant hum of not enough. I remembered their faces. I remembered their birthdays. I remembered their teachers' names and their allergy lists and their shoe sizes. But the sound of their joy? Gone. Like a song you used to know but can't quite hum anymore. How does that happen? How does a mother forget the sound of her own child? The answer is not that I was a monster. The answer is attention. Or rather, the lack of it. Attention is not infinite. Your brain can only focus on so many things at once. And I had spent years directing my attention toward work, toward success, toward the endless checklist of American achievement. My children's laughter was happening in the background, the same background as the refrigerator hum and the traffic outside. My brain had learned to filter it out. This is the same brain mechanism I mentioned earlier, the reticular activating system. It filters out the unimportant, so you can focus on what your brain has been told matters. And I had trained my brain, through years of repetition, that work emails mattered more than my daughter's snort laugh. That deadlines mattered more than my son's screech. That being productive mattered more than being present. Slow English listening didn't just retrain my ears for English. It retrained my entire attentional system. Because listening to slow English, really slow, really gentle, really repetitive, is like physical therapy for your attention span. It forces you to notice small differences. A slight change in intonation. A pause that means something different than the last pause. A word repeated with a new emotion. And that skill, the skill of noticing, spilled over into everything. One evening, about 2 weeks after David and I had our "I need to tell you something" conversation, I was sitting on the floor of the living room. Leo was building a tower of blocks, or rather, he was stacking them with the intense concentration of a tiny architect. Mia was drawing at the coffee table, her tongue sticking out the side of her mouth, a habit she had inherited from me. And then Leo's tower fell. Not dramatically. Just a quiet topple of plastic blocks onto the carpet. He didn't cry. He just looked at the fallen blocks, then at me, and let out this tiny, breathy laugh. Not a screech. A ha-ha-ha sound, like a cartoon character. And I heard it. I really heard it. For the first time in years, I heard my son laugh. I started crying. Not sad crying. The kind of crying that happens when you find something you didn't know you had lost. Mia looked up from her drawing. Mom, why are you crying? Because I heard Leo laugh, I said. And it's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Mia tilted her head, confused. But he laughs all the time. I know, I said. But I wasn't listening before. I'm sorry. She thought about this for a moment. Then she put down her crayon, walked over, and hugged me. No words. Just a hug. And I closed my eyes and listened to her breathing. In and out. In and out. A rhythm I had memorized when she was a newborn and then somehow forgotten. Here's the science of what was happening. When you practice focused listening, the kind where you pay attention to subtle auditory details without judgment, you are literally strengthening the neural connections between your auditory cortex and your prefrontal cortex. You are building a bridge between hearing and meaning. And that bridge doesn't discriminate. It doesn't say, only work emails cross this bridge. It says, everything you truly listen to crosses this bridge. So by practicing slow English listening, by training my brain to notice the tiny pauses, the soft consonants, the rising and falling of a voice, I had accidentally rebuilt my ability to hear my own children. Not because I tried harder. Because I had created space in my brain for listening instead of responding. Most of us don't listen to our children. We wait for them to stop talking so we can say the right thing. Or we half listen while scrolling. Or we hear the words but not the feeling underneath. That's not listening. That's monitoring. And monitoring is exhausting for everyone. Real listening requires something that feels almost impossible in American culture, emptiness. Empty space in your brain. No agenda. No next question prepared. Just receiving. Just letting the sound land. Slow English listening taught me how to be empty. When I listened to those slow stories, I wasn't trying to memorize vocabulary or pass a test. I was just letting the sounds wash over me. Creating a space where language could land without being immediately judged or categorized. And that empty space became the most valuable thing I owned. I started using that emptiness with my kids. Instead of immediately answering Mia's questions, I would pause. Just for a second. And in that pause, would actually hear what she asked. Not the surface question, the question behind the question. Like when she said, Mom, do you have to work tomorrow? The real question wasn't about my schedule. The real question was, will you be here? One night, after I had been practicing this for a few weeks, Mia asked me something that broke me open. We were reading a bedtime story, a picture book about a bear who lost his way home. And halfway through, she looked up at me and said, Mom, are you lost? I stopped reading. What do you mean, honey? You were gone for a long time, she said. Even when you were here. But now you're back. Did you find your way? Out of the mouths of babes. She wasn't talking about geography. She was talking about presence. She had noticed my absence long before I did. And she had noticed my return before I could name it. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in the dark and thought about what she said. Did you find your way? Not yet, I realized. But I was walking. Slowly. Listening. And for the first time in years, I could hear the footsteps. In the next section, I'll tell you exactly how I built a new normal, not by quitting my job or moving back to my home country, but by changing one tiny, almost laughable habit. And how that habit saved everything. But for now, I want you to try something. Today, not tomorrow, today, find a moment when your child, or a child you love, or even just a friend, says something to you. And instead of answering immediately, pause for 3 full seconds. Just listen. See what you hear in that silence. You might hear their real question. Or you might hear your own heart. Either way, you'll be listening. And listening is the first step back home. What matters? A new definition. By now, you might be expecting me to tell you that I quit my job. That I sold everything and moved to a small cabin in the woods where I could find myself and speak only slow English to the squirrels. That would make a great movie. But real life is messier. And real change is almost never dramatic. It's boring. It's tiny. And that's exactly why it works. I didn't quit my job. I didn't leave America. I didn't become a full-time yoga instructor or a mindfulness guru. I kept the same career, the same house, the same husband, the same kids. On the outside, almost nothing changed. But on the inside, everything changed. And the only difference was one tiny, almost laughably small habit. Here it is. Brace yourself. It's going to sound ridiculous. Every evening, for 45 minutes, I put my phone in a drawer. That's it. No meditation app. No expensive course. No life coach. Just a drawer. The kitchen drawer next to the silverware. The one that also holds old batteries and takeout menus nobody uses. For 45 minutes, from 7:15 p.m. to 8 p.m., my phone was dead to the world. No emails. No notifications. No scrolling. No, just checking one thing. The drawer was a Faraday cage for my anxiety. And at first, it felt like withdrawal. I'm not exaggerating. The first week, my hand would twitch toward my pocket. My brain would buzz with phantom vibrations. I would feel a sudden, urgent need to check something. Anything. The drawer seemed to mock me. Your life is in here, it seemed to say. Your emails. Your validation. Your proof that you matter. Are you sure you want to lock it away? But I kept the drawer closed. And something strange happened. The first few nights, I didn't know what to do with myself. 45 minutes is a long time when you're not used to it. I wandered around the house like a ghost. I stared at the wall. I opened the refrigerator 3 times without taking anything out. I was addicted, not to my phone, but to the escape my phone provided. The escape from silence. From boredom. From my own family. Because here's the uncomfortable truth I had to face, my phone wasn't the problem. I was. My phone was just the tool I used to avoid being present. Without it, I had to actually be with my husband. Be with my kids. Be with myself. And that was terrifying. But slowly, again, with that word slowly, something shifted. Around day 4, I sat down on the floor with Leo while he played with his dinosaurs. He had a tiny T-Rex and a slightly larger Triceratops, and he was making them fight. Or maybe they were friends. It was hard to tell. Normally, I would have sat nearby with my phone, glancing up every few minutes to say, "That's nice, honey. But without my phone, I had nowhere else to look. So I watched. Really watched. Leo made the T-Rex roar. Except his roar sounded more like a cat coughing. He looked at me to see if I was watching. I was. So he did it again. Louder. Then he laughed, that breathy ha 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 I had only recently rediscovered. And then he put the T-Rex in my hand and said, "You be the mommy dinosaur." For the next 20 minutes, I was a mommy dinosaur. I roared, badly. I protected my baby dinosaur, a plastic stegosaurus with a missing leg. I chased the triceratops around the living room carpet. And I did not think about email once. Not once. When David came in from the kitchen, he stopped and stared. I was on my hands and knees, making dinosaur noises, my hair a mess, my work clothes still on. And I was laughing. Really laughing. The kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep and forgotten. David didn't say anything. He just smiled. A real smile. The first one I had seen on his face in a long time. That was the miracle. Not a grand reconciliation. Not a tearful apology. Just a mommy dinosaur on the living room floor, choosing presence over productivity. Here's the science of what happened. When you remove the constant distraction of your phone, your brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-reflection, empathy, and creativity, finally has a chance to activate. The default mode network is what allows you to think about other people's feelings, to remember shared memories, to imagine a different future. But it's easily suppressed by the task-positive network, the system that handles focused, goal-oriented work. Your phone constantly triggers the task-positive network. Even when you're not actively using it, the presence of your phone nearby reduces your cognitive capacity. Researchers call this brain drain. Your phone doesn't have to ring. Just seeing it on the table makes you dumber. By putting my phone in a drawer, I was giving my brain permission to switch modes. To stop performing. To stop achieving. To just be. And in that mode, I could finally access the parts of myself I had lost, the playful mother, the curious partner. The woman who used to laugh at stupid things. I didn't quit my job. I still work full-time. I still answer emails. I still have deadlines and stress and days when I want to hide in the bathroom. But now I have a boundary. A small, physical boundary. A drawer. And that drawer has become sacred. My children know that between 7:15 and 8 o'clock, Mom is not available to the world. She is only available to them. David knows that during that time, we can talk without him watching me glance at my screen. I know that during that time, I am allowed to be imperfect, unproductive, and completely, gloriously present. The results have been measurable. Not in dollars or promotions. In smaller, more important units. Mia now runs to me when I come home, not because I bought her something, but because she knows I will actually look at her. Leo has started saying, "Mommy, no phone," when he wants my attention. He's 4. He's already learned that presence is a gift. And David? Last week, he said something that made me cry in the grocery store parking lot. He said, "I think I'm falling in love with you again." Not because I lost weight or got a promotion. Because I put my phone in a drawer. In the next section, I'll tell you what success looks like now, 10 years later, with the same job, the same house, but a completely different life. And how the most successful thing I ever did was stop chasing success. But for now, I want you to try something. Tonight, pick 15 minutes, just 15, and put your phone in another room. Not face down. Not on silent. Away. Then sit with whoever is in your house, or just sit with yourself. See what happens. You might be bored. You might be uncomfortable. Or you might, just might, hear something you've been missing. Your own life. It's been there all along. You just stopped listening. Success, redesigned. Let me fast forward 10 years. Not because the journey wasn't important, every messy, painful, beautiful step mattered. But because I want you to see where slow listening, a kitchen drawer, and a few honest sentences can lead. I still live in California. I still work for the same logistics company. I still drink too much coffee and still can't fold a fitted sheet. On paper, my life looks almost identical to the one I was living when Mia asked me if I liked my phone more than her. But everything is different. And the difference is invisible. You can't see it in my bank account or my job title. You can see it in the way my children run toward me when I walk through the door. Not walk. Run. Mia is 16 now. 16. She has braces, a sharp wit, and an opinion about everything. Teenagers are not known for running toward their parents. But most evenings, when I come home from work, she looks up from her phone. Yes, she has one now, that's a whole other battle, and she smiles. A real smile. And sometimes, she even gets up and gives me a hug without being asked. Leo is 14. He's taller than me already. His voice cracks at unpredictable moments. He thinks he's too cool for family dinners, but he always shows up anyway. And when he has a problem he doesn't know how to solve, he finds me. Not because I have the answers. Because he knows I'll listen. That's my success now. Not a corner office. Not a six-figure bonus. Not a house in a fancy neighborhood. My success is a 16-year-old who still wants to hug me and a 14-year-old who trusts me with his confusion. Let me tell you about a specific moment that redefined everything for me. It was about 3 years ago. I had just finished a major project at work, the kind that required late nights, early mornings, and a spreadsheet with 17 tabs. My boss was thrilled. He gave me a bonus and a gift card to a nice restaurant. On the drive home, I felt satisfied. Not ecstatic. Not empty. Just quietly satisfied. When I walked in, Mia was doing homework at the kitchen table. Leo was supposedly doing homework but was actually watching videos on his tablet. David was making dinner, spaghetti, our Tuesday tradition. I put my bag down. And instead of checking my email, which I would have done automatically 10 years ago, I sat down next to Mia and asked, "What are you working on?" She showed me. It was algebra. I didn't understand any of it. But I listened while she explained it. Then I helped Leo set the table. Then I talked to David about his day, really talked, not the fine, you, version. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, David and I sat on the porch. The same porch where I used to hide from my own life. And he said something I will never forget. You know what I realized today? What? You don't check your phone at dinner anymore. You haven't for years. I just noticed that I stopped noticing. It's normal now. You being here. I started crying. Not sad tears. The kind of tears that come when you realize you've been forgiven for something you didn't even know you were doing. Because here's the truth about redesigning success. It's not about achieving a new goal. It's about letting go of the old one. For 10 years, I was climbing a ladder that someone else built. I thought success meant more money, more recognition, more proof that I belonged in America. I thought if I could just get that promotion, that house, that accent, would finally feel enough. But enough is not a destination. It's a decision. And I had to decide, every single day, that what I already had was enough. Not because I stopped wanting more. Because I stopped believing that more would fill the hole. The hole wasn't empty because I lacked achievements. The hole was empty because I had removed myself from my own life. I was a ghost in my own house. And no amount of professional success can make a ghost feel alive. Here's some research that changed how I think about this. Psychologists have studied what actually makes people happy over the long term. And the number one predictor of happiness is not income, not education, not even health. It's the quality of your close relationships. That's it. How connected you feel to the people you love. Everything else, money, status, stuff, accounts for less than 20% of your long-term happiness. But here's the kicker. Most people know this. Ask anyone what matters most, and they'll say, family or friends. But their behavior tells a different story. They work late. They scroll through their phones during dinner. They say, I'm too tired, when their child wants to play. They know what matters, but they live as if it doesn't. I was that person. For 10 years. I knew I loved my family. But I didn't act like it. I acted like my family was a background detail in the movie of my career. Redesigning success meant flipping that script. Not quitting my job. I still need to pay for braces and algebra tutors and that weird organic milk Leo insists on. But reordering my priorities. Putting relationships first, and letting work fill the spaces around them, instead of the other way around. Now, when I say, relationships first, I don't mean I spend every waking moment with my family. That's not realistic. I still have deadlines. I still travel for work sometimes. I still have days when I'm too exhausted to be fully present. But I have a rule now. A simple, non-negotiable rule: no phone at the dinner table. Ever. And I have another rule: when one of my children speaks to me, I stop what I'm doing and look at them. Even if it's inconvenient. Even if I'm in the middle of an email. Even if what they're saying seems trivial. Because what seems trivial to me might be the most important thing in their world. And if I dismiss it enough times, they'll stop sharing. They'll take their important things somewhere else. And I'll wake up one day with a teenager who doesn't run toward me anymore. That almost happened. I caught it just in time. So what does success look like now, 10 years after Mia's question? It looks like a kitchen drawer that still holds my phone from 7:15 to 8 o'clock every evening. It looks like a husband who knows he can tell me anything without me reaching for a screen. It looks like two kids who argue about whose turn it is to choose the movie, and who still want me to sit between them on the couch. It looks like me, at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, tired but not empty. Worn out but not lost. Successful by every measure that actually matters. In the final section, because this journey is almost complete, I'm going to ask you a question. Not a rhetorical one. A real one. The same question I had to answer for myself. And I'm going to give you a specific, practical challenge to start your own redesign. Not tomorrow. Today. But before that, I want you to pause and think, what would your life look like if you stopped chasing someone else's definition of success? What would you do differently tonight? You don't have to answer out loud. Just let the question sit. Like a slow English sentence. Repeating until it becomes familiar. What success looks like now. You made it. We're at the second to last chapter of this story. And if you've been listening, really listening, you might have noticed something strange. I haven't given you a single vocabulary list. No grammar rules. No top 10 phrases for sounding like a native. And yet, your ears have been training this whole time. Because real listening isn't about memorizing. It's about inhabiting. And you've been inhabiting my life for the past hour. So let me paint you a picture of success. Not the kind with a yellow Lamborghini or a corner office. The kind that doesn't photograph well but feels like a warm blanket on a cold night. It's a Tuesday. Not special. Not a holiday. Just a random Tuesday in spring. The kind of day that used to feel like a grind, another 24 hours to survive before the weekend. But now, Tuesdays feel like Tuesdays. Just a day. And that's fine. I wake up at 6:15, before my alarm. Not because I'm anxious. Because my body has finally learned to trust the morning. I lie in bed for a minute, listening to David breathe beside me. He's still asleep, his face soft and unguarded in a way it never is during the day. I used to resent his sleep. Why did he get to rest while I was already running through my to-do list? Now I just feel grateful that he's here. That we're both here. I get up. I make coffee. I don't check my phone. That's the rule, no phone until after I've poured the first cup. The kitchen is quiet, but it's not the heavy silence from before. It's the light silence of early morning. The refrigerator hums. A bird taps at the window. I pour the coffee and just stand there, holding the warm mug, watching the sun turn the neighbor's fence from gray to gold. At 7 o'clock, I wake the kids. Mia groans and pulls the blanket over her head. Leo is already awake, scrolling on his tablet. Fine, nobody's perfect. But instead of nagging him, I sit on the edge of his bed and ask, "What are you watching?" He shows me a video about a guy who builds elaborate mazes for his hamster. It's stupid. It's wonderful. We watch for 2 minutes, and he laughs that breathy laugh I almost lost. Breakfast is chaotic. Someone forgot to put the milk away. Leo wants pancakes, but we're out of eggs. Mia is stressing about a math test. David is looking for his keys, which are in his hand. 10 years ago, this chaos would have sent me into a spiral. Why can't anyone be organized? Why am I the only one who cares? Now, I just breathe. The chaos is not an emergency. The chaos is just life. And life is messy. That's not a problem to solve. It's a fact to accept. I drive the kids to school. In the car, we listen to an audiobook, something silly about a dragon who can't breathe fire. Mia complains that the reader's voice is annoying. Leo mimics it and makes her laugh. I laugh too. And for 10 minutes, nobody looks at a screen. We're just 4 people in a Honda CR-V, driving to school, being together. At work, I'm still a project manager. I still have deadlines. I still have that one client who changes his mind 3 times before breakfast. But something has shifted. I no longer feel like my worth depends on this job. It's a job. I do it well. I go home. The emails that used to make my heart race now just make me think, I'll deal with that after lunch. Not because I care less. Because I've stopped confusing urgency with importance. Here's what I've learned about success in America, the real kind, not the billboard kind. Success is not a trophy you earn. It's a muscle you exercise. Every day, you have to choose what matters. And every day, The world will try to convince you that what matters is the promotion, the house, the likes, the validation. But you get to decide. You. Not your boss. Not your neighbor. Not the algorithm. I used to think success meant never feeling lost. Now I know that feeling lost is part of it. I still have days when I wonder if I'm doing enough, earning enough, being enough. But those days don't destroy me anymore. They just remind me to check my compass. To ask myself, what did you do today that actually matters? Last week, Leo came home from school with a B on a science project. He was disappointed. He wanted an A. He sat on the couch, shoulders slumped, and said, "I'm not smart." I sat next to him. I didn't give a pep talk. I didn't say, "You'll do better next time." I just said, "Tell me about the project." He talked for 20 minutes. About volcanoes. About baking soda and vinegar. About how his partner didn't help. About how he stayed up late to finish the poster. And I listened. Really listened. At the end, he said, "I guess I worked pretty hard." "You did," I said. And hard work is its own kind of smart. He didn't suddenly feel better. But he hugged me before he went to his room. That's success. Mia, my 16-year-old, came to me last month with something she had never shared before. She said, "Mom, I think I have anxiety." Like, real anxiety. Not just being nervous. My heart broke and swelled at the same time. Broke because she was hurting. Swelled because she told me. She didn't hide it. She didn't suffer alone. She came to me. We found her a therapist. We talk about it openly. I don't have the answers, but I have presence. And presence, I've learned, is often more important than answers. That's what success looks like now. It looks like a teenager who trusts you with her vulnerability. It looks like a husband who holds your hand on the couch without you asking. It looks like a 9-year-old who still thinks you're the best mommy dinosaur in the world. It looks like me, at 9:30 on a Tuesday night, writing this script for you. Not because I have to. Because I want to. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in a car in a parking lot, not wanting to go home. And I want that person to know, you're not alone. You're not broken. And it's not too late to change. In our final section, the last one, I promise, I'm going to give you the exact question that changed everything for me. Not a motivational quote. A real, practical, uncomfortable question that you can ask yourself tonight. And then I'm going to ask you to do one small thing. One tiny, almost laughable thing that might just start your own redesign. But before that, I want you to look around you. Wherever you are right now, your couch, your car, your bed, your office. Notice one thing you haven't noticed before. A crack in the wall. The way the light falls. The sound of your own breathing. That's your life. It's happening right now. Don't wait until you're successful to start living it. Your turn to listen, really listen. So here we are. The end of my story. But hopefully, the beginning of yours. I've told you about the shower breakdown, the silent dinners, the car that became a hiding place. I've told you about the question from a 6-year-old that cracked me open, and the slow English listening that put me back together. I've told you about a kitchen drawer that saved my marriage and a mommy dinosaur who found her way home. But none of that matters if you don't do something different tonight. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Because here's the brutal truth about watching videos like this one, it's easy to feel inspired. It's easy to nod along, to wipe away a tear, to think, wow, that's so true. And then close the tab and go back to exactly the same life. Inspiration without action is just entertainment. And you didn't come here to be entertained. You came here because something in you is hungry. Tired. Maybe even desperate. You came here because you've been chasing success in America, or wherever you are, and you're starting to suspect you're losing what matters. You came here because you want to train your ears like a native, to move from B1 to C2. To finally understand the language that surrounds you every day. But deep down, you know it's not really about grammar. It's about belonging. It's about being seen. It's about no longer feeling like a foreigner in your own life. So let me give you the question that changed everything for me. The one I had to answer before any real change was possible. And I want you to answer it too. Not in your head, out loud. Or write it down. But answer it like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. What are you chasing that isn't chasing you back? That's it. That's the whole question. What promotion, what approval, what version of enough are you running toward, while your children, your partner, your own exhausted heart are running in the opposite direction? For me, the answer was success. I was chasing a version of success that didn't even want me. It was a ghost. A mirage. Every time I got close, it moved farther away. And I left my family behind to chase something that never intended to be caught. Maybe for you, it's fluency. Perfect, accent-free, never make a mistake fluency. And you've been running so hard that you forgot why you wanted to learn English in the first place. Was it to connect? To express yourself? To be understood? Or was it to prove something? To prove you're smart enough, American enough, enough? Here's what I learned. Fluency is not a finish line. It's a side effect. A side effect of slowing down, of listening without pressure, of allowing yourself to be a beginner for as long as it takes. You don't chase fluency. You invite it. You create space for it. You let it find you while you're busy living your life. So here's your challenge. You're one small, almost laughable thing. Are you ready? Tonight, for 15 minutes, put your phone in another room. Not on silent. Not face down. Away. Then sit with someone you love, or just sit with yourself, and listen. Not to respond. Not to fix. Not to teach. Just to hear. If you're with a child, ask them, what was the best part of your day? And then don't interrupt. Don't check the time. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Just listen. If they stop talking, wait. Let the silence stretch. They'll fill it with something true. If you're with a partner, try this. Tell me one thing you haven't told me before. And then listen like your marriage depends on it. Because maybe it does. If you're alone, and many of you watching are alone, I know, then sit in front of a mirror. Look at your own eyes. And ask yourself, what am I not saying? Then say it. Out loud. Even if your voice cracks. Even if it feels ridiculous. Say the thing you've been hiding. I'm lonely. I'm scared. I don't know who I am anymore. Say it. Your ears need to hear your own truth. This is not a meditation exercise. This is listening practice. The most important listening practice you will ever do. Because if you cannot hear yourself, your own exhaustion, your own longing, your own quiet desperation, you will never truly hear English. Or any language. You'll just be parroting sounds while your soul stays silent. I want to tell you one last thing about slow English listening. It's not a technique. It's not a hack. It's a homecoming. Every time you listen to a slow, gentle story, in English or any language, you are telling your nervous system, you are safe. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be perfect. Just be here. And when your nervous system believes that, something miraculous happens. Your ears open. Your mouth relaxes. The words that used to sound like noise start to sound like music. Because you're not fighting the language anymore. You're dancing with it. I still listen to slow English stories. Every morning. Not because I need to improve, though I still do, we all do. But because it reminds me who I am. A person who is learning. A person who is enough. A person who belongs, not because she has a perfect accent, but because she shows up. Slowly. Gently. Honestly. You belong too. Right now. Not when your English is better. Not when you have the promotion. Not when you lose 10 pounds or buy a house or finally understand the difference between effect and effect. Right now. In all your imperfect, exhausted, beautiful humanness. So here's my final question for you, the one I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. If you stopped running today, what would you hear? Would you hear your child's laugh? Your partner's sigh of relief? Your own heartbeat, finally resting? Or would you hear silence? Not the scary kind. The honest kind. The kind that says, welcome home. You've been gone too long. You don't have to answer me. Just answer yourself. And then, maybe, take the first small step. Put the phone down. Open your ears. And start listening, to English, to love, to the life that has been waiting for you all along. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, really listening. This story is mine, but the next one could be yours. And I can't wait to hear it. You made it. You stayed with me through 12 chapters of mistakes, tears, dinosaurs, and a kitchen drawer. If you're still here, it's because something inside you is ready to change. Not tomorrow. Not when life gets easier. Now. Here's what I know for sure, the people who win at this game aren't the ones with perfect grammar. They're the ones who keep showing up. Slowly. Gently. One imperfect sentence at a time. So here's your invitation. Every week on this channel, I tell real stories, messy, honest, American stories, at the perfect speed for your ears and your heart. No pressure. No judgment. Just two people learning to listen. If that sounds like the practice you've been looking for, hit subscribe. Not because you owe me anything. Because you owe yourself a place where slow is enough. And here's my challenge to you right now. Comment one word, just one, that describes how you feel after this video. Lonely. Hopeful. Tired. Curious. Whatever's true. I read every single one. Because your voice matters. In English. In silence. In every language of the heart. See you in the next story. Same slow pace. Same honest face. And maybe, next time, your story.